Hi, this is Chris Prochaska, and welcome to this week's newsletter. This is the fourth aspect of the inner voice that I would like to share with you today. Just again to recap, the first three were V, vision. What's your big vision for your life, your world? How do you see yourself relative to that vision? And how do you see the world relative to that vision? You need to be really clear about that because if you're seeing it from anything other than the perspective of your inner voice, then you're going to see what's wrong with you and what's wrong with the world instead of really being able to see and connect with and manifest possibility. The second aspect is ownership. So, really owning your responsibility, owning who you are, good, bad, ugly, and everything in between. And then last week I talked about I influence, what's influencing you internally and externally. Again, what's influencing inside you. Those voices, are you listening to the voice in your head, the voices in your head that are, fear, doubt, shame, guilt, criticism, judgment, all of those little voices? Or are you listening to your inner voice, the voice of your heart and the voice of your soul? This week, we're going to talk a little bit about choice. And choice, when I think about it, is this is what sets us apart from all other animals and beings on this planet is free will and the ability to choose. In any given moment, we have this ability. But most of us abdicate this ability and this God given right. Why? Because we are under the influence, we are under the hypnotic rhythm of those little voices. And today I want to share with you a little bit more personal experience and example of just how this shows up. And I'm a firm believer, uh, probably because of my background as a therapist. I don't like to necessarily share my clients' stories. I hold those sacred and confidential, but I really don't have much of a problem sharing my own uh, foils and things that go wrong in my life because, basically I look at it as they're all learning lessons, and they never actually go totally wrong. They just get misaligned for a little bit until I can get myself back into alignment with my inner voice, and that's exactly what I want to share with you today. So, as many of you know, we're moving, and we've been getting our house ready to move and doing a lot of yard work and work on the inside of the house and work on the outside of the house. And over the weekend, I was watering, or I was actually weeding this front area in our yard, a garden with a bunch of plants in it. I noticed one of the hostas was looking pretty yellow and a little bit dried out. We've been having some great weather, nice sunny weather, and it looked pretty thirsty. So in my mind, I was like, oh, these need to be watered because the house is going to go on the market and people are going to start looking at it, and I don't want it to look bad, and I don't want them to think I don't take care of my house. I mean, I had all these thoughts, right? And I didn't share really any of those thoughts with my husband. I don't think I did. I might have said something to the effect of these need to be watered. But he didn't hear me. And later that night, he was out watering the lawn, and I said, I called out the window, "Hey, are you going to water this garden by hand?" A very simple statement, right? But how it came across and the energy with which it came across and my intention behind it, I left out some key ingredients in that communication. And without going too much more into like a bunch of detail, I just wanted to tell you that it devolved from there. And I got very self righteous because my husband had a very different perception about what needed to be watered and when and how. And I was like, I was almost frantic, like, this has to get watered. What's going on? And it wasn't so much what I said, because the statement I said was quite simple. It was the energy behind it. And that's one of the things that I really want people to get clear about. We talk all the time, we're communicating all the time. It's the energy and the intention behind what you're saying that's what people are really responding to. And that's one of the things that I help people do, is to discern the energy that they're bringing to a conversation. Well, the energy I was bringing to this conversation was definitely from a lower perspective. It was from a fear perspective. But I didn't know that. I thought I was being completely rational. We need to water these plants. So we ended up having this really stupid argument. I mean, it's one of those arguments where you're just like, why are we arguing about this? This is ridiculous. It's so stupid. This can't be about watering plants. It must be about something else. Well, the more we got into that, the more my ego, those little voices, got firmly entrenched. And I was like, I want to be right about this. Now, I didn't consciously say I wanted to be right about it. That was the position I was holding. And I was holding on to that, damn it, no matter what, because I was like, this is ridiculous. This is a rational thing that we need to water plants. So I was coming from this perspective of, it's rational, it's what we need to do. Can't you see that? It's obvious, blah, blah, blah. Husband having totally different experience of the whole thing. That's beside the point. The point is that at any given moment throughout that entire conversation, and I saw the choice points along the way where I could have chosen a different direction. I could have chosen to respond in a different way, but I didn't. I kept going on this, I got to be right. I got to win. And I was bringing that energy to the conversation, which is a very low, low energy leadership. And energy leadership, that would be a level like 2. Conflict, I win, you lose. And so as the conversation devolved, at one point, I just sat there and I was like, what do I really want? What do I really want in this situation? And what's really coming up for me? And I had to really sit with and connect with what were the feelings that were coming up. It wasn't the way I wanted our evening to go. And so I had to acknowledge the sadness and the grief that I really wanted to hang out and have a great date night, not have an argument about watering plants. And the other piece of that, that was one level of it. Then I needed to really examine, and which I did, what was this really about? What was it really about? And what I got clear in that moment was that what it was really about for me was the anxiety about the plants dying, and that was going to be the whole thing that threw the whole sale of the house off. I had put all this weight into whether or not a freaking hosta was living or not. And that was the energy that I brought to the conversation. And my husband is incredibly intuitive and an amazing communicator, and he totally picked up on that and responded in kind, which means that he responded from a little voice place too. So when we were able to look at that later and kind of laugh about it and say, he came up with this great phrase. He said it was ego fencing. And I thought, God, that's so perfect. That's exactly what it was. So a lot of times people will say, well, you don't talk much about emotions. No, emotions are incredibly important. And in fact, see, what was happening was I was in an emotional follower mindset during that conversation. And it wasn't until I chose to consciously look at and experience the emotions, the real core emotion that was underlying that whole conversation, acknowledge it, receive it, say, oh, this is what's really going on, and then apologize from this place of like, wow, that's not what I really want. That's when it all shifted. That's when it all changed. I could see his perspective, I could see my perspective, I could see everything, because then suddenly, by choosing to align with my inner voice, I could see everything. And instead of trying to get love, security, and self esteem, because that's what the little voices want, I came from a place of love, security, and self esteem. Everything was safe. The water is fine. I watered the plants. The plants are okay. The perfect buyer will be there. It's not worth fretting about. So I hope that this is helpful for you to really see and start to discern. Again, it's all about discernment. When you're in that little voice track and that path, it's really hard to discern who you're listening to, because you can get so emotional, and but it's often not the emotion that you're expressing that's really underneath it all. It's something else. So choose to be aware, choose to be conscious, and choose to align with your inner voice perspective, which knows exactly what's right about the situation and exactly how much love, security, and self esteem you already possess. I'd love to hear from you about anything that this brought up for you, any examples from your own life, and let me know. You can either email me at chris@chrisprochaska.com or leave some comments below. Take care and have a beautiful week. Bye.